As you see here, I got the rear end leaning up against that recycling container upwards, and now I'm going to remove the belt. I'm just going to slip it off. Okay. Okay. Card. Like this. Simple as that. This belt doesn't look bad, but like I said, I want to be safe than sorry. I'll take the new belt. Slip it over the drive pulley. And make sure that the edge of this belt is facing the tensioner pulley. Got it. Just rotate it around. Okay, got it. Yeah, this is the tensioner pulley right here. Make sure that the face of the tensioner pulley presses up against the belt. So that way, whenever you apply tension to the belt, it goes like that. And that does it. Now I gotta proceed to the next step. Before I reassemble the machine, I want to touch base on a certain subject matter. You see this? This is the auger attachment clutch. Now it's in the off position, and now it's engaged in the on position. Off, on, off, on, off, on. And as you see me moving this lever back and forth, you can see a cam and a spring going in and out, like this. When the auger is engaged in this position, the clutch is engaged in this position, this cam face meets that cam face on the pulley, the drive pulley. So when the auger is engaged, those two cams meet together and they lock together. And sometimes the auger attachment clutch sticks. Sometimes when you move the lever to release it, it doesn't go back and forth. It's a common problem. You would release the clutch like this and nothing happens. This cam doesn't go in and out. And when that happens, you spray this spring and you spray this assembly with like PB Blaster or maybe a rust penetrant and leave it sit overnight. And if you got the two ends separated like I have here, take a mallet and tap the face of the cam while you're releasing and engaging the clutch to see if the assembly frees up, which it usually common does. And in order to prevent it from locking again, what I do is I take marine waterproof grease and grease the spring right here. Just like goop it in there. Take some large goops. Make sure you got it thoroughly coated. A good thing to use is a paintbrush for this, but I don't have one, so. And on the cam face, also put some marine waterproof grease to prevent that knocking noise whenever the auger attachment clutch is engaged. And do the same with the pulley part. Sorry, I lost my glove here. The reason why it's good to put grease on those cams is to prevent these ends from wearing off. Because whenever you release the auger attachment clutch to operate the auger, sometimes you hear a big knock. And putting grease on these facings prevents that. and move her back and forth. She's pretty well gooped up. Now I got to clean myself up and start the reassembly process. And I forgot to add, make sure the center shaft right here in the center of the cam, make sure that's greased too. Sorry about that. In order to reattach the front auger assembly to the rear drive engine assembly, the first thing you should do is make sure the auger attachment clutch is in the off position, which it is. The lever is in the off position. And the next thing you should do is take these little ends right here. There's one on each side, and there's notches in these ends, and you slip these notches over this shaft here and tilt both ends together and bolt them. Now I got my front auger assembly in position, and now I got my rear engine drive assembly in position. Now the two are ready to be tilted back towards each other and rebolted together. And as you see here, those are those two ends I mentioned in the previous video clip. Those two ends have notches in them, and those notches slip over the shaft right here. And as you tilt the rear towards the front, you can see this. And I'll put it in its place. Hopefully. Take this container right here. And now the two ends are meshed back together. And you take your bolts. There's one bolt on each side. A little bit of technical difficulty here, but you can see my point. There's one bolt right here, and there's supposed to be another bolt that goes on this side. You take those two bolts and you put them in there and you tighten them, and that's what connects the two ends together. The bolts on each side are secured, the ends are reattached together, both front and rear. Now it's time to reattach the belt cover. Just take the cover right here, slip it on, and just reattach the wing bolt to the engine and screw it on. Sometimes there's plastic covers, which could be a pain, but these are the nice ones. And the next step is to reattach the chute. And before I reattach the chute, I'm going to clean the surface on it. Just take a wire brush like this and just clean the surface. Clean this edge right here, where I'm rubbing my finger. Just make sure it's all nice and clean. Just a quick tutorial, and make sure this face is clean too. Just clean it with a wire brush. Get it all nice and clean to get that excess grease off there, that dried grease. Well, both chute surfaces are clean now with the wire brush. And the next thing I'm going to do is take some more marine waterproof grease. I got a glove on, and just grease this edge right here. Just grease it. Greasing makes the chute move around more freely, and plus it prevents it from freezing up. Freezing chutes are pretty much a headache. So yeah, just go around, just grease it all the way around, and when you're done, just slip the chute over this part right here. As you see here, the edge is all greased up now. Now it's time to reattach the chute. Just take the chute and slip it over like this. Moves pretty freely, I guess. And take your dogs, you remember these, remove the nuts off of them. And just reattach them like this. And reattach the bolts right there. and there's 3 sets of dogs going around the chute. Make sure you don't lose the nuts, and make sure all the dogs are in place. As you see here, the chute assembly is now secured into place, and the next thing you should do is to adjust the pinion assembly. Here's the pinion assembly for the discharge chute. In order to adjust the pinion, you loosen up these 2 bolts right here, which are 1/2 of an inch, and you move this assembly up and down. And you want the teeth of the pinion, here's the pinion right here, you want the teeth of the pinion just to be above the rack enough, but not too little. You don't want it too much. You don't want it applying pressure too much, the pinion, otherwise the chute will be kind of stiff when you crank it. You want a free moving one, like this. Like I said, you want the pinion above the rack, not too little, not too much. If you got it too much above the rack, your chute may operate stiff. You want it just enough so it's not operating stiff and the teeth are high up enough, and the chute rotates freely. As you see here, I got the machine tilted upwards towards the building again, or garage. And even though I'm not going to do it today, before you put the belly cover back on, clean this hex shaft with gasoline on a rag and re-grease it using marine waterproof grease. And also grease these sprockets, this chain and these sprockets right here. I ran into a problem. There's a keyway on this shaft which turns the wheel. That keyway is gone, so I got to get a new keyway for that wheel, because this wheel turned but this one didn't. I was wondering why, and that's the reason why it didn't turn, is because the keyway is gone. Not a big deal, I'll just go to the store and get one. And yes, that concludes this video. Bye.